Hi team, are you good or not? I'm so happy to say this is the first video about well-architected framework. Have you heard something about this term, well-architected framework, or do you have some experience to build architecture for the cloud and using this framework? Don't worry if you have experience or not. Today, in this video, I'm going to show you the fundamentals, what is this framework and how to work with it. So let's start the video. Hey, good to see you again. Maybe the main question of this video is what well-architected framework is. Of course, there is a different definition for these frameworks for different cloud providers because it's a relationship between the cloud provider, the well-architected framework, and the resource to implement the principles of the well-architected framework for each cloud provider. I'm going to show you about the well-architected framework from Microsoft Azure. Let's start to see something on our Microsoft documentation, and that's it. Microsoft well-architected framework is based on the 5 principles: reliability, security, cost optimization, operational excellence, and performance efficiency. Don't worry about each of these principles. We will discuss in more detail in the next videos, right? But how this framework can help us? For instance, as soon as you start to develop or to create or build an architecture for your solution, we need to answer different questions about these principles, right? For instance, we have some kind of design principles provided by the Azure well-architected framework. We have resource managers can help us and guide us to improve our environment as an Azure advisor. We have great documentation from Microsoft, partner supporting service offers, reference architectures. This is really nice resource I'm going to show you in the next videos. But for all of these things, it's related to the 5 principles. The first one, reliability, mentioned we need to build our architecture, and this architecture needs to be prepared for failures. Why? Okay, if you are using an Azure and you create an app service in a region called West US or West Europe, for instance, imagine there is a disaster on this region. Your application are prepared to be recovered after this failure? Do we have some strategies to prevent the problem as soon as we have this disaster recovery thing or some failures on your resource? This is the things related to reliability, right? When you talk about the cost optimization, maybe it doesn't make sense for you now, but the cost is important for your cloud environment because, okay, we have the idea that our cloud environment is more cheaper than on-premise environments, but it depends. It depends on your strategy, and think about the cost. It's important as soon as we start to build some solution for our cloud environment. Operational excellence, it's another important topic. Okay, I'm trying to build an architecture, put different resources on my diagram, and think about the cost, and also move this solution to be developed and of course to be hosted on my cloud environment. But what is the best practice to do it? Because as soon as I have a strategy to build an application, I need to have a strategy to maintain this application on our cloud environment. Because this operation excellence affects the different pillars of the well-architected framework. For example, for cost optimization, for reliability, for performance efficiency, and security. And these things are so mixed during our process to build an architecture. The performance efficiency, it's really nice approach, because on this principle, performance efficiency, we have a chance to understand the resource that we are using in our cloud environment, and to understand if this resource is good enough for our application, for our solution or not. And based on this principle, we can save money, cost optimization, and also, of course, to provide the best services for our customer and for our team. And the most important principle from my perspective is security. It's totally different when we build something for our cloud environment and when you build something for our on-premise environment. Of course, this thing needs to be secured at the same time, but for the cloud environment, potentially we have different users request our make some requests for our application at the same time, and you need to know as soon as you put your application on your cloud environment, you receive some kind of threats on your environment, and we need to take care about it. So another great things related to this Microsoft well-architected framework is the documentation. Of course, I'm going to show you some things related for the documentation, but also I would like to share with you the well-architected review. The well-architected review, it's based on you can connect or link your Azure subscription. In the case, you can create the assessment name, for instance, code FC assessment example, and you need to answer some questions. For instance, what workload type do you want to evaluate? You are working with a core well-architected review, Azure Machine Learning, Internet of Things in preview, SAP on Azure, Analytics. You can select more than one, but I will select this core well-architected review. And what pillars you do like to evaluate? This is based on the 5 pillars, and we can select each of them in comparison with our design solution. You can try to do one assessment for reliability, for instance, at the point in time, or about the cost, doesn't matter, or everything related. But I'm going to show you one thing about the security, for instance. And about the security, you have to answer different questions just for security. Of course, some of these questions are not related to your workload, maybe. But yeah, we can select next here, and you have this question: have you done threat analysis of your workload? And there is some kind of explanation. Their threat modeling is an engineering technique which can be used to help identify threats, attacks, vulnerability, and so on. This is kind of explanation about the questions, and you have to answer these questions. For instance, for my case, there is a process to track, triage, and address security threats in the application development lifecycle, and of course security requirements are defined for this workload, threat protection was addressed. Maybe these 3 things is related to this context, and I move for the next question. What the consideration for compliance and governance did you make in this workload. And as you can see, it's not just related for the security things, but the things related to the subject to improve your security environment. For example, landing zones concept is implemented for this workload using Azure Blueprints and Azure Policy. This is nice one. Maybe in the future we can discuss a little bit more about the landing zones. But root management group, attacker defender, and this one, I can select it. And also you have to answer different approach or different answers for these questions until the end of the questions. So to be easier, select different answers for many questions here. I will select some of these answers here in this case and view the guidance. And here my workload has a score critical. By the way, I need to improve my workload based on the reliability or based on the security things. Because of my answers, I received this assessment result. It's not good, it's just an example, but the great thing related for this security is because, for example, I answer some question, but I receive some recommendations. In this case, adopt threat modeling process, and if you click on this link, you can read a documentation about threat modeling tool from Microsoft documentation, or for instance, follow DevOps security guidance and automation for security applications. And let me see a different approach here. This one is a nice one. As you can see, code deployments, key points, roll back and roll forward. It's some kind of strategy that you can use to improve your design, your workload, right? And you can do it every time you want if you want to assess different perspective for your workload. Workload is basically your solution in the cloud environment that you try to prepare. Okay, you can export it and so on. But the basic things related for this Microsoft well architected, I like to use this documentation as to support my decisions, of course. For instance, for the security, as we did in the assessment, we have different links here to discuss about the security. Different materials can help us to improve our security in our design solution. For instance, these things talk about the pillars related to security, and we need to understand about identity and access, threat protection, compliance management, and so on. And there is different explanation about the security principles. And from the design perspective, you can see here design, governance, and okay, I would like to talk about governance. What is the checklist related to this pillar? And as you can see, you have different descriptions about this checklist, and it's the same for another principles for the well-architected framework. So, in the basic things related, we need to design our solution and try to create some assessment report for each of these pillars, answer the questions, and these questions will bring to us different perspectives to improve your well-architected framework, to improve your decisions as soon as we want to create a great solution for your customer, in your company, right? But this is the basic things related. The assessment is just one tool. We can use different tools to guide us, to help us. For instance, Azure Advisor, it's another one, because Advisor It's a great tool from Azure to help you to understand about the course, to understand about the security. There's different actions you can use the advisor to help you to, I don't know, fix some treat or fix some problems, and these problems give you a so expensive environment, and then you can use the advisor to help you to improve your environment. In this case, for instance, based on the 5 pillars of the well-architected framework advisor, will show you this high availability, security, performance. From this case, performance is good, everything is good for the performance efficiency. The cost, it's not so good, but there is an important information. You can save money if you apply different suggestions from the advisor. In this case, we have medium, we have description about the things, potential resource with this problem, and so on. Azure Advisor is another tool in relation to the Microsoft well-architected framework. So, as you can see, it's the basic things related for the well-architected framework is question and answers. And you can use the answers to validate our architecture and also to learn more about the strategy. If you remember, I mentioned about the landing zone. And what is the landing zone? This is an important thing related to the Azure environment, but also we can use the same concepts here that I showed to you based on the Microsoft well-architected framework, Azure well-architected framework, but there is the same resource for AWS and GCP. Each of these cloud providers has a specific documentation about well-architected framework, and on this documentation, these cloud providers relate the things from their resource, AWS resource, GCP resource, Microsoft resource, to solve one problem or one thing related to a principle, reliability, security, and so on. This is the variation between this cloud provider, but the fundamentals, it's the same. You can use this documentation and the tools available here on Microsoft well-architected framework to guide you to improve your architecture. And you don't need to answer the question for the 5 pillars. It depends for your workload, it depends for the moment of your architecture design. And based on this example that I showed to you, you can use, okay, now I have one architecture, I would like to validate the reliability and answer the question. And you need to improve it. If you need to improve your design, you receive a score and some reference to improve your design and make assessment again. This is the really nice tool that I use in my daily basis to build architecture for a cloud environment. But don't worry about each of these pillars. We will discuss each of them in our next videos, okay? So, thank you for watching this video and see you the next time.